This ancient sea creature prowled the waters over North Dakota. Researchers said they had discovered a new line of mosasaur, a giant sea-dwelling creature that lived alongside the dinosaurs. Its name, Jormungandr walhallaensis, draws on Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, a monstrous sea serpent wrapped itself around the world's waters. Its name was Jormungandr. The ancient Norse also believed in a place called Valhalla, or heaven. And in North Dakota, there's a small town called Walhalla, a name that reflects the area's Scandinavian heritage. It was near there that a new kind of mosasaur, a type of giant sea creature, was discovered, scientists announced last week. They named it Jormungandr walhallaensis. Jormungandr walhallaensis, which lived about 80 million years ago, has been deemed a new species and genus of mosasaur, an ancient lineage of marine reptile predators that dwelled the Earth's waters almost as far back as 100 million years ago. It was revealed for the first time in a study published in the Bulletin of the American Museum of Natural History. The paper details the distinct and puzzling features of a fossilized skull and jaw unearthed in North Dakota in 2015 that led researchers to conclude that they had stumbled upon a previously unknown, mysterious creature. There are a lot of papers published on dinosaurs every year, but not very many papers published on mosasaurs every year because there just aren't very many people in the world working on them, said Michael Caldwell, a leading mosasaur expert and a biological science professor at the University of Alberta in Canada who did not work on the discovery. Mosasaurs were essentially giant lizards with flippers that allowed them to live in the sea, with some species growing as large as 60 feet. They went extinct at the same time as the dinosaurs. Amelia Zietlow, a doctoral student at the Richard Gilder Graduate School at the American Museum of Natural History and the lead author of the new study, said Jormungandr walhallaensis bears a unique mix of physiological traits from what is perhaps the best-known mosasaur genus, the school bus-size Mosasaurus, depicted, however oversized, in the movie Jurassic World, and its smaller, more primitive predecessor, the Kaleidasts. An analysis run by computer software yielded no exact match for the fossil in the mosasaur fossil record, leading Ms. Zietlow and her co-authors to conclude that their fossil was not only a new species but an entirely new genus that sits somewhere between Kaleidasts and Mosasaurus in the mosasaur lineage. However, there is healthy debate over this point. Do I necessarily agree that it's a new genus and species? Dr. Caldwell said. Well, no I don't, but those are sort of the scientific quibbles, right? It's more likely, Dr. Caldwell said, that the fossil described in the study is simply a new species of the Kaleidasts genus. Under this view, it would take the name Kaleidasts walhallaensis. Still, the paper adds extremely valuable data for future research to consider as the field develops what is still a fledgling understanding of the evolution of mosasaurs, Dr. Caldwell said. Though Ms. Zietlow and her co-authors only had Jormungandr walhallaensis's skull and jaw to analyze, they were able to glean important details about how it lived and died. Jormungandr walhallaensis probably measured 18 to 24 feet long, Ms. Zietlow said. The shape of its teeth indicate that it preyed on fish and other small creatures when it prowled the western interior seaway, which split North America in half through the Midwestern states during the late Cretaceous period. Some of the animal's vertebrae show teeth marks that appear unhealed, Ms. Zietlow said, suggesting that it had been attacked by another animal, possibly even another mosasaur, not long before it died. The fact that the rest of the skeleton was missing when it was discovered suggests that it may have been eaten. Ms. Zietlow hopes her work on Jormungandr walhallaensis will spark interest in mosasaurs, which she called understudied despite collections of their fossils in museums across the continent. Of the 4,000 mosasaurs in North America, Ms. Zietlow explained, only about 5% of them have been included in the scientific literature. Mosasaurs are large, carnivorous aquatic lizards with a global distribution that lived during the late Cretaceous. After 200 years of scientific study, new mosasaur species are still being discovered as new localities are explored and specimens collected long ago are reevaluated using modern standards of species delimitation. Even so, the phylogenetic positions of many key taxa are unresolved and therefore our understanding of mosasaur macroevolution is muddled. Here, we describe a new genus and species of mosasaurine mosasaur comprising a partial skull and skeleton from the Pembina member of the Pierre Shale Formation in Cavalier County, North Dakota. The lower bound on the age of the specimen is 80.040.11 ma, provided by the underlying bentonite bed. Its skull and jaws are nearly complete, and the postcranial skeleton preserves 7 cervical vertebrae with 3 hypopophyseal peduncles, 11 ribs, and 5 anterior dorsal vertebrae. The new specimen was scored into a modified version of an existing phylogenetic matrix of Mosasauroidea and was recovered in a polytomy with Kaleidasts. However, given that its morphology is significantly different from that of Kaleidasts, we refer it to a new genus and species, Jormungandr walhallaensis. Notably, this new taxon shares a mosaic of features seen in both basal, e.g., Kaleidasts, high dental counts, and derived, e. Mosasaurus, subrectangular quadrate, mosasaurines, in addition to possessing its own unique suite of autapomorphies. Given that it possesses morphology intermediate between Kaleidasts and Plotosaurini, we suspect that future analyses of mosasaur phylogeny, following the addition of new characters and taxa, will recover Jormungandr as transitional between them. Its occurrence increases the known diversity of mosasaurs from the Pembina member and is the earliest mosasaur to possess autapomorphies of Plotosaurini. Finally, we also analyzed the matrix using different outgroups to test their effect on tree topology and resolution, and found that including multiple non-mosasauroid angiomorphs increased resolution, but not support of mosasaur-eating group relationships. Ancient marine reptiles swam in rivers too. Mosasaurs were large, ancient relatives of monitor lizards. They were common during the late Cretaceous period, 66 million to 100 million years ago, and were found near shallow marine areas in salt water. But researchers now say a newly discovered species of mosasaur lived in freshwater river environments. This species probably adapted to freshwater the same way river dolphins in Asia and South America did. The new mosasaur has been named Pannoniasaurus inexpectedus. Researchers discuss the species and its fossils in the journal PLOS 1. The fossils, from newborns and adults, suggest that the mosasaur had limbs like a terrestrial lizard, a flattened, crocodilian skull, and a very long tail, half the length of its body. The bodies ranged from 28 inches to 20 feet, though the average was about 10 feet. These animals were undulating their tail like a crocodile to propel their movement in water, said an author of the study, Laszlo Makati, a paleontologist at the Hungarian Natural History Museum. They used their limbs just to brake and steer. The fossils were discovered in an open-pit bauxite mine in the Bacani Mountains in western Hungary. In 1999, a mosasaur fossil was found in non-marine rocks in western Canada, but scientists doubt it was a freshwater animal. That individual probably just exploited the river system and died there, Mr. Makati said. But it was not specialized for that environment. For extinct monsters of the deep, a little respect. Here is a quick paleontology quiz. Which group of animals included large, air-breathing predators up to 50 feet long that bore live young, dominated their world for more than 100 million years and were ultimately exterminated by an asteroid 65 million years ago? Easy, right? Did you say dinosaurs? Sorry, wrong answer. But it was a trickier question than it may have appeared. The correct answer is marine reptiles, which at the time of the last great extinction included mosasaurs, plesiosaurs and plesiosaurs. The key clue in my question was bore live young. Unlike the dinosaurs, which were terrestrial and laid eggs, marine reptiles were fully aquatic and bore live young. This latter combination was no coincidence. Despite their awesome size and abundance in the fossil record, their bones were among the first to be recognized as fossil remains of extinct creatures. Marine reptiles have long played second fiddle to their much more famous saurian cousins. But if we humans were aquatic creatures, we would have a whole lot more respect for these other reptiles. They were the top predators of Cretaceous seas. Thanks to their prevalence, scientists have figured out a lot about them, particularly recently. This includes, most remarkably, insights into their genetics, something that is not even preserved in the fossil record, and what it took to transform ordinary lizards into extraordinary sea monsters. The first scientific description of a fossil marine reptile was of a beast discovered in 1764 by workmen in an underground limestone quarry near Maastricht in the Netherlands. It took a long time for the identity and significance of the bones to be realized. At first mistaken for a crocodile, fish or whale, the creature was pilfered by the French army when it seized Maastricht in 1795. The fossil was eventually recognized as something entirely different and named Mosasaurus, Mosa Latin for the Meuse River, near Maastricht, and saurus meaning lizard. Moss